So welcome along everybody to the ARC360 webinARC focused on sustainability for January 2022, sponsored by eBay. Joining us today, we've got Charlotte Berniche, we've got Joe Marsh of the Green Part Specialists, we've got Chris Payne of LV, and we've got Stuart Sandell of Enterprise Holdings, all of whom you'll hear from very shortly. Huge thank you to our corporate partners, BASF, BMS, CAPS, Copart, Emax, Integral, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Innovation Group, Mercer, Nationwide Vehicle Recovery Assistance, S&G Response, and Sherwin-Williams, as well as our partners, Aztec, the Green Part Specialists, Indasa, Prasco UK, and our associate partners, Gemini, Trend Tracker, and Thatcham Research. Before we get started, you can see on the screen our disclaimer. So the views and opinions expressed during the following webinar are those of the individual contributors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the contributor's employer, organisation, committee, or other group or individual. Please respect any all contributions, and we encourage you to join the conversation via the interactive functions available. So welcome along, everybody. Fantastic to see people joining us. Thank you so much. Always good to hear from you as well. So please do drop us a line in the chat, fire away any questions that you've got, give us a wave. As we always say, sat this side of the screen, when you're just staring at yourself, can always be a bit off-putting, depending obviously who you are. But yeah, do keep us up to date on your thoughts. And we've got a big subject matter to cover off today, sustainability. What does it mean to the individuals, the organisations on the screen? What does it mean to you in the chat as well? Would love to hear some thoughts. And there's obviously some sort of key topics that we'll pick up on as we go. But we're going to have a little run round first and say a big hello to everybody for 2022. And I'm going to come to you first, if I may, Charlotte. So Coachwork Renovations, how are you? And could you just give us a little insight into the business?
Hello, thank you for welcoming me to the panel today. It's my first time I've ever done anything like this, so bear with me because I was a little bit nervous, but it's a lovely opportunity and really nice to see some well-known faces in the industry as well. I'm still learning who everybody is. Basically, Coachwork Renovations is a family business. My father started the business in 1972. We're based in Gravesend in Kent, so we carry out vehicle accident repairs for a lot of the South East and going into central London over to Essex and obviously Kent where we're based. We work with some of the UK's leading motor insurers and various other work providers doing everyday vehicles down to the light commercial vehicles. And I've been working in the business for the last 22 years. I've really come from a background of the office, but as we're trying to encourage my father to take a step back and retire, enjoy some of his hard-earned time off, my brother and I are really sort of starting to take over the reins in other parts of the business. And I'm lucky in the fact that he manages the body shop and then I can concentrate on other areas that are really important to us. So that's how we're sort of splitting it up at the moment. And as I say, I'm fairly new into the whole networking and, things like this, but I'm really educating myself so that I can move us forward.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us as well. And it's really good to have sort of an independent family business represented on the webinars. So really appreciate it. And we know how much, I've had a brief insight into how much good stuff you're doing down there. So, and if your dad needs any advice about retirement, I'm sure there's plenty of people who can quite happily offer him some information. So, Chris, I suppose jumping across to yourself, LV, how is the world there for yourselves at the moment?
Afternoon, Mark. Afternoon, everybody. Thanks for inviting me along today. The world of LV, very busy, very exciting. Lots going on at the moment, which is all good stuff. I think from a repair claims perspective, our claims volumes are getting back to somewhere very close to pre-pandemic levels, which is really good. It's a real challenging time over the last couple of years to try and maintain what we can as far as support for our network, and that's been really tough. But really pleased to say that we are getting back to a little bit more normality. I think for me in my job, I manage the motor repair network and our engineering function. I also look after our Britannia Rescue agent network and our building contractor network as well. So I see the challenges right across all the industry, and how it's affecting us in different ways. But there's a lot of similarity across all of them, whether it be parts delays or material shortages in the building world, or lack of technicians, drivers. It kind of affects us right across all the industries.
Yeah, and I can kind of second that opinion there, Chris, with my limited exposure to the world of home insurance and home claims recently. It's the parallels are very interesting to draw, and you can certainly draw plenty from them. Joe, if I may, come to you next.
Thanks, Mark, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm Joe March from the Green Parts Specialists. For those that don't know us, we're a part of Hill Salvage and Recycling. We're based up in the northwest of England with further sites in Dumfries and more to follow in the south later this year. We do what we say we do. We deal with total loss and salvage disposal on behalf of insurance companies, and the arm of the Green Parts Specialist is the area that specialises in green parts management for repairers and insurers alike. And it's good to say that it has been a very busy 2022. It's nice to actually see the normality return to this industry. And we're certainly seeing the benefits of that, albeit that we are very, very busy. But it's a welcome change, and we're looking forward to what the rest of the year brings.
Great stuff, Joe, and great to hear how things are with yourselves. And we'll come on to, I suppose, the operational elements very shortly. And Stuart Sandell, Enterprise, how are you, sir?
Very well, thank you, Mark. Delighted to be back on a webinARC, I have to say. So looking forward to in-face events more this year. Very optimistic now that we'll have a more normal 2022 with a few more of the networking events where we'll get to see each other and what have you. So excited about that. Obviously, for those that don't know me, I look after our sales in the UK and Ireland, specifically around what we do with insurers, body shops, OEMs, what we call the replacement, so providing alternative transport. And that also feeds into our technology business, Integral, and also the repair services that we offer. And then more widely, Enterprise as a mobility provider. Business, like being commented here, we've really seen a resurgence and business coming back across all sectors, whether that's business travel, leisure travel, and in the replacement space. Again, supply challenges are echoed across the whole, I think every sector. I don't think it's there's one that's avoiding that. So we're navigating those, making sure we keep focused on customers and our people as a key priority. So much like we did during the pandemic. So yeah, good subject matter today. Keen to have a little say in it and listen to what everyone else has got to say too.
Great stuff, super stuff. So let's get started on that subject matter then. So broadly speaking, falls under three kind of categories, if you like: economic, social, and environmental. Arguably, the environmental one is the one we hear lots about, and for all the right reasons, kind of at the moment. But in the current climate, and we're all different businesses facing different challenges. What does sustainability mean to you and your business? If you like, what's the key focus, if there is one such at the moment? So Stu, I may bounce back to you on that one if I can first.
So I think it's right to point out that sustainability is quite widely used as a term and can be applied to lots of different areas. I think in the birth of ESG, as we now have all kind of adopted across business and away from CSR and the other terms that have been used, I think there are those three kind of pillars within that. I think sustainability from an economic perspective and a financial perspective can never be overlooked, and I think its importance has been never more prominent than as we've worked our way through a pandemic. I think those businesses that are of sound financial footing have been able to navigate and come out the other side in better shape. So I think that part of sustainability, financial, will always be important. And I think, you talked about, I guess, the social side of it. So I think things like diversity, equity, inclusion, and those parts of our business are things that we never stop talking about. We don't always put that under the sustainability umbrella, but that certainly falls into that if you want to apply that term to it. But I do think at the moment, and when I talk to our business partners, both ones that provide work to us or ones that are our suppliers, sustainability is very much landing in the environmental space at the moment. And I think that's led by the governments as well, with various targets, whether it's ultra low emission zones or whether it's banning of ICE vehicles, whether it's around recycling and reusing materials. I think sustainability is heavily linked now to that environmental bit. And then how we all understand our impact, how we measure our impact, and how we contribute collectively, because this isn't about one organisation. The climate crisis is about the globe and about every organisation that contributes. So I think whilst there are many factors that are linked to it, I think when we talk about sustainability, the environmental element is certainly front and centre on that.
Yeah, great stuff, Stu. And I'll go kind of across to Charlotte now, because again, opposite ends of the scale in terms of, scale of business, size of business, but where are your thoughts? Do they align with what Stu's saying about kind of the green part, the environmental aspect being the key element at the moment for yourselves?
It is, but of course the other factors, they all intertwine to me. We want to do things that are better for the environment, but without having the finances to do so, it's hard to move the business forward in that direction. So when I'm sort of looking at our future and how we can be sustainable, I'm thinking about many things at the moment that all link into each other. The investment of obviously training for our workforce, and then obviously when I'm putting in new ideas that are reducing our carbon footprint, I'm thinking of more training then for current staff. So and then there needs to be the finances to do that and the manpower to do that and the demand at the end of the day from our work providers. So to me, the sustainability, it does come under different umbrellas, but they are all very vital to actually, success. And at the moment, with what we've just been through, I think it's all taught us a really good lesson that you can do your best planning, but you need to be very reactive as well. You need to leave flexibility in your business. So you need to make sure you have, you've not tied yourself down too much is the best way for me to say it.
Yeah, great stuff. And hey, kind of aligns exactly with what Stu was saying, that perhaps, this one environmental piece is part of those three elements, core elements, let's call them. But maybe that's the one within larger organizations, perhaps is the one that we're kind of seeing highlighted more at the moment because of everything that's going on. And it's really interesting to hear from your side, Charlotte, how, a smaller independent business, as we said, is kind of managing all the elements, if you like, in one go at the moment. And Chris, from an insurer side, doing some wonderful things, obviously, from the insurance side itself, but working with the networks and things, and how is this kind of all piecing together for you at the moment?
Yeah, I think it kind of starts from the strategy of our parent company, Allianz, in the global strategy we've got around sustainability and how we can be kind of net carbon zero. I think is where it all starts. In how can we influence that to show a supportive role in being carbon zero? And I think our vision is about how we can support our customers and our supply chain to be more sustainable, and how we can all contribute towards that. Obviously, from a network perspective, we are doing a lot of things around sustainability, definitely around ESG as well. And our Green Heart standard is a real good start for us when we look at a wider commitment to sustainability. And that's trying to support our network around being carbon neutral, but it's also around green parts, electric vehicles, mental health and awareness policies, diversity and inclusion, apprenticeship. So we try and invest in a kind of a wider ESG proposition in order to play our part, I think, so we can contribute to the business goals.
It's great stuff, Chris. And Joe, I suppose one of those elements falls directly on your lap, so to speak. So tell us a little bit about the world from your side then at the moment.
I will. Going off on a tangent, we were laughing earlier before they started, the chances of somebody poking their head through the door, and they did exactly just that. Just happened to be the MD as well, wasn't it? It's great. But for us, sustainability, Mark, is about being commercially astute and looking at what we can do with partners to make them more commercially sustainable. I mean, from our perspective, we look at what we do as a business. We're engaging in our path on our pathway to becoming carbon neutral, and that's led us certainly into an arena where we're questioning absolutely everything we do, from the hundreds of thousands of miles that we travel in our wagons to the thousands of miles that our vans carry out delivering parts across the country, and questioning why are we doing it? Why are we doing it that way? How can we do it better? How can we do it more efficiently? So being sustainable actually means we're going to be more cost effective. And yeah, we said we're recyclers. That's what we do. We recycle vehicles. We supply car parts, which is fantastic. But we still got to get all these parts to the end user, to the body shops on behalf of the insurance companies. So then we start to question, well, why do we wrap a part up in plastic packaging? Why are we using cardboard? We can do that. We can shred cardboard. We can take cardboard from repairers. We can shred that cardboard. We can reuse it. And suddenly we start to reevaluate the benefits of that, and actually the wider implications of actually supporting our partners to find a better way of actually improving the service that we currently give at the moment.
And you said yourself earlier today you were missing a few key members of staff, and you were kind of rolling your sleeves up, getting stuck in and questioning everything.
Absolutely. And I think we saw some of that through the pandemic, but certainly at the moment, COVID seems to be more prevalent. I don't know about everybody else, but certainly in our business this week, we've seen an increase in cases. And what that means is actually somebody sat at his desk most days actually has to roll up his sleeves, get his hands dirty, and go out there into the cold face of the business and start to question again, why are we doing it that way? What drives us to keep doing what we do, but don't question why we do it? And yeah, we're certainly seeing that this week.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Joe. So moving on, and there's a great question coming from Paul Dixon, which I think kind of ties in with the next point that we're moving on to in terms of strategy. So as I say, kind of environmental green parts tops the agenda right now. For very good reason, and rightly so. But to get that right, there's kind of got to be the foundations in place for any of this to take place, I suppose, across any of those kind of three subsectors. So how important is strategy in all of this? And to align it with Paul's point there is, how do you kind of get it embedded across your business? And Chris and Stu, I'm sure that's, something that you're faced with and have to deal with in big organizations. But again, same thing stands for yourself, Charlotte, is how do you get the team to buy into all of this and play their part? So Stu, I'll jump to you if I may.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. And I think you could have the best strategies in the world, but you really need the right people to execute them. So I think actually it starts before the strategy, and it actually starts with the people, and it kind of goes to what Charlotte was saying around training them on whatever it is that you're working towards. And there was a management consultant who had the term about culture eating strategy for breakfast. And I think really, I guess what that means is similar to what I'm saying, is that if you haven't got the right people, you won't be able to execute it anyway. So I think it starts absolutely at the top. So I think Paul's question was around messaging. I did see it flash up, but I can't see it in front of me. And I think that starts right at the top. So no matter what the circumstance you're operating in, you've got to keep communication levels up with your employees and your people in the business. So we do things like, from the very, very top, our global CEO has a regular company-wide town hall where entitled Sharing the Vision, where many, many subjects are covered off, including things around ESG. So a big focus on that is around things we're doing in the DE&I space. We've got some initiatives called Road Forward, which is a big global initiative, but then right down to a local level, and that's talked about a lot. The environmental side's talked about a lot because of obviously the EV side of things. And once you start it there and then start to feed it down, and you bring the leadership on that journey with you, and they start to disseminate those messages and keep them going into the team, I think that's the way that you have to do it. If it's not being led from the top, then the whole system won't work. So I think the strategy is important, but the people are more important to the strategy, or than the strategy, to getting it right.
Great stuff. Okay. And Charlotte, I'll kind of jump across to you again, because a bit of a contrast, as I say, in terms of business scales. But is the same true within your own business there, what you're experiencing?
So basically, from an employee perspective, I would just sit my staff down and talk to them about, they know what the vision is anyway. We've been working on our greener project for around 5 years now, so we're constantly pushing that at the moment. So that it's no surprise to them when I go to them and say, right, we're trialing something new, or we're going to change a process. So they're quite used to this. And it's really just, I think if you explain why you want to do something, how it's come about, I'll get amazing support. And I actually think they really enjoy being brought into these trials that we're carrying out. To a certain extent, where we can afford to invest the time, we will pioneer brand new things. And I think that it's quite exciting for them to try new things. It's a change in their routine, and they seem to embrace it, providing that obviously they understand why. We've got our supplier network is brilliant at bringing new ideas forward, and I'll try most things if I think that we can fit it into our business, the way we're working. If it suits us, if it ticks all of my boxes, then I'll give it a go.
Good on you. And that approach, you've somehow got to kind of carve out those opportunities for yourself, haven't you? It's so hats off to you for taking that approach. And Joe, you're obviously within the business dealing with you said it yourself, kind of office-based staff, people out on the road, people kind of at the coalface stripping down vehicles, etc. Again, is that kind of to ingrain that culture? Is that the key element to everything that you do, as well as working in kind of the industry that you do anyway?
Absolutely. I mean, we have over 300 employees, from people who as you said, work in the office, to depolluting and dismantling vehicles and moving parts off the vehicles and delivering the parts to customers. We take quite a proactive approach in terms of our wider team's understanding what sustainability is all about. And that's brought about really, as Charlotte said, about being inclusive and actually bringing them on board on the journey, understanding what they do makes a difference and why they do it. And some of that has actually been involving them in actually taking them out to the customers and see where that end product goes, and why it's so important that it's handled in a certain way that we require it to be in order to facilitate the customer's needs. I think somebody just working in a silo every day, doing the same job repetitive, and not actually understanding where the wider benefit resides within the business and sustainability is a missed opportunity. If they see that, if they can go and touch it, feel it, and see exactly what their role brings and what benefit that brings to the overall operation, that's really important. It's something we've really pushed over the last 12 months here at Hills, at the Green Parts Specialists.
Great stuff, Joe. And Chris, I suppose, very much in terms of the conversation, in terms of what you do within the industry, it's very much a kind of two-pronged. It's an internal and an external relationship type piece with yourself. So tell us a little bit more about how do you get buy-in? How do you get that ingrained in everything that you do, both internally and externally?
Yeah, I think it kind of starts with our global CEO has a very clear strategy on sustainability. That helps us focus on what we need to achieve. And it gives us a good understanding of how we need to support our entire supply chain and our customers and our people. I think also it's driven a lot by people. I think people are more aware now than ever before on the impact of climate change. And I think that helps drive a strategy for us, because our people are kind of forcing the strategy as well. Is what our people want, is what our customers want. So it allows us to kind of focus on doing the right thing. And that's really important, and we can set a strategy around that. And it's why is why we've done a lot around our supply chain focus, around our Green Heart standards, around our body shops being carbon neutral, but also why we want to do more internally as well. How do we use more green parts? How do we stop using single-use plastics? So you kind of bring it down to a granular level as well. How do you reduce the use of paper? How do you stop driving so much? Can we all have electric vehicle cars? That type of thing. So I think there's a lot of marginal gains in the approach that we can have to be more sustainable.
That's it, and with an awful lot, of runway to go at, isn't it? And that's the thing. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's got to be kind of, small steps, and they all add up.
Yeah, we're turning a large ship in a canal, aren't we, at the moment? That's what we're trying to do, and there's no quick win on it. We're not going to get there overnight, but we have to have a commitment to driving it forward for sure, and that's right across the oil industry.
Agreed.
I think on that people point, Mark, as well, and I mentioned people in mine, and to Chris's point there, I think I'm sure that nearly everyone on this call is conscious of what they contribute personally at home, whether it's using the recycling bin or how they do things at home. But people care about where they work now and the businesses that they do business with based on their credentials. So whilst there's the consciousness of doing things for all the right reasons, but there's also like a commercial element there where if you want to attract the best talent and be an organisation that people want to work for, you're not going to be able to do that unless you have a good focus, because people will start to pick their employers based on these factors, like the places they may shop or do business with. So it goes quite a long way outside the organisation and overall. I really agree with that point that around the people that Chris made.
And again, picking up on that, Stu, really interesting point, because where are we in terms of kind of how it influences relationships externally? Are we far more focused now on this kind of sustainability piece, and then what businesses who we partner with are doing things that align with us and have got the same focus? I mean, Charlotte, how does that kind of work from your side?
Well, given the opportunity, we would choose work providers that will allow us to use the green parts, because obviously getting hold of them is a lot easier than the new ones. So that's one bonus. A good profit can be made from repairing items that don't need to be replaced. We can invest in training more staff to do that. It's if we have the choice, if we can connect with the right suppliers, then obviously we will choose those that allow us to work in the way that we prefer to work. It's all about doing the right sort of repair for the right price, and being able to use the materials and things that where we have choice. That's the way we would prefer to work given the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, I'm going to come back to you on the free plug you just got there for recycled parts. And Chris, from where you sit, very much a two-way street in terms of how you kind of look to partner with organisations. And again, these things don't just happen overnight. Things don't just fall into place, but that's kind of the overall outlook.
Yeah, it takes time. It's built on trust, isn't it, Mark? People have got to believe in the service that we provide and that we deliver on the promises that we make. I mean, commercially, it's a no-brainer. I looked at the stats for last year. We were saving on average £140 a part versus RRP. So from a commercial perspective, yeah, it's fantastic. It works for a repairer. Charlotte's already said that it does, and others advocate it. It's great. It's great for us. The more requests we sell, the more requests we receive, the more parts we sell. The more parts we sell, the more money we make. From a repairer's perspective, they're saving more money. From an insurance perspective, they're reducing their average repair costs. So the whole green part supply chain works. I guess someone's already mentioned, that it's like turning this huge tanker, and we're going in the right direction now. I think it's probably ready and prepared to step up a level. And by that, I mean, actually look at, okay, all these repairers are requesting all these green parts. It's fantastic. We're selling more and more green parts, and we're pushing more parts out the door, but we still need to see the supply at the back. And if And if everybody jumps on the bandwagon and wants some more green parts, and we're not seeing the supply coming through the back, then naturally our fulfillment rates decrease, because we naturally cannot supply what we haven't got. And then we're all back in the same situation where we're at, where manufacturers can't supply parts in time. The green parts specialists have been absolutely hammered with requests, as has been the case in January already. And we start to then question, well, who do we want to work with? Who are our preferred partners? Well, our preferred partners are people who think like we do, who look at the overall sustainability strategy involved in utilising the green part, and those that support us and work with us to supply the vehicles in the first place in order to get those parts out to the repairers that need them. So the whole thing is a cyclical process. If one end of the chain isn't supplying the goods, and the other part of it can't supply the parts, and that's the area that we're looking at more and more now with customers that we're working with, or customers who want to work with us. So if you want to work with us, fantastic, but let's lay the cards out on the table and understand what's in it for everybody in order to actually drive the benefit.
Hey, good stuff there, Joe. And it's you can see that, you know, the circle completing, if you like. It needs to, doesn't it, for it to happen effectively for everyone. So, and sorry, Chris, yeah, to pick up on the point of sort of that Charlotte made, and from an insurer working with networks and suppliers, very much the same. The sort of strategies, the thought process, the cultures need to align for it to happen, you know, long term. Again, it's not just going to happen overnight.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important that we work collaboratively with our repairers, because we need to understand the challenges they face as well. And it's not about just putting the standard in place and expecting our repairers to adhere to that standard. We invest a lot of time and effort into it. We actually fund our Green Heart standard as well. So if our repairers pass our certification process, we fund it. So we want to make sure we invest heavily in what our repairers are doing as far as trying to support our strategy as well. And that's really important to us. And I think if I look over what we've done just in this last year, we talk about that influence. We've got almost 50% of our repairers now are going through a PAS 2060 carbon neutral repair already. That's a fantastic achievement, and that's a lot of hard work from our repairers to achieve that. But we're really proud of that, and we're really proud of the fact that we are building a network around that. Because I think moving forward, it's going to be customers' expectations as well. You know, customers are going to want to use a service that's more sustainable, more environmentally friendly. So I think it's definitely something that we've got to carry on trying to work collaboratively to get the industry signed up to it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that loops back nicely, Stuart, to your point in terms of that kind of commercial advantage that can come with this, in the sense that, you know, people want to work with people, whether that be employees, whether that be end customers. Some questions coming in, which we will start to get round to, hopefully. If we don't get round to them, we'll take them off air and we'll follow up with them. But Stu, in terms of a kind of, you know, the most immediate, so, you know, in the next kind of few months, year, whatever it might be, but what sort of a challenges stroke opportunities, and I always like to lead with opportunities, but challenges just comes first in the alphabet. But you know, where are we kind of looking relating to sustainability? What's the big thing that yourselves, enterprise, can do in one way, shape or form to either influence the industry, do themselves, whatever it might be?
The challenges and the opportunities are largely linked and one and the same very often anyway. The things that are challenging are often the biggest opportunities. I must sound like a fixed record, because whenever I do anything with you, Mark, I always talk about collaboration, but again, around issues like this, and I said it right at the top, the opportunity comes through collaboration, because nobody can fix some of these challenges alone. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't got a good network of whether it's suppliers, whether it's customers, whatever it might be, that can help to achieve these things, you're a bit of a loss in the first place. So I think it's really important that the industry and collaborates on it. What I have seen a big shift on over the last probably 5 years of the last decade is when we're asked about sustainability from an environmental perspective, what used to be somewhat tick box exercises as part of perhaps a tender or an RFI or something are certainly more meaningful and there's more time spent on them. And in some sectors, like the public sector, they're heavily weighted towards those factors. So I think it's definitely much more present everywhere. And when you're looking to supply services to an organisation, they are paying it certainly much more airtime than I saw when it used to be what I would refer to as tick box. I think for us in the immediate term, medium term, and perhaps the long term, being a mobility provider, the electric vehicle is clearly the thing we are spending the most time thinking about, taking action on, learning about, and again, collaborating. So that's right down to, we activated what's the largest ever study into the rental market and electrification using the services of an organisation called Roland Berger. And we gave them 30 million pieces of transaction data across Europe to understand what they would look like if they were EV transactions. So how do we understand about charging infrastructure? How long would vehicle off-road be? What would the customer experience need to be? Where would we need charging posts? How many would we need? How quick would they have to charge a car? There's a huge amount in that space. So I know your question was immediate. The immediate, medium and long term for us is very much centered around that mobility part, and then how all that fits into the mobility ecosystem around car clubs and mobility as a service and that side of things. And then also being conscious of our impact elsewhere. So our network, is it, we're using renewable fuels, renewable energy, water recycling, is our supply chain recycling tires, glass, refining oil filters. So we look at all of that as well. But I think, the most relevant, I guess, for this audience and generally is the EV piece for us is huge and will remain huge.
Yeah, definitely. You've got Sean Carey asking about new and used car availability and prices. He's minus 23 degrees, by the way, where he is. So he's probably looking for some story to warm him up from you, Stuart. But
I thought that was the car availability number.
Right, enough said on that one. And Chris, I mean, same kind of thing. Short-term challenges, opportunities that you see either in LV and or working with your network.
Yeah, I think the short-term challenges is around how can we collaborate, influence, educate, support. We really need to be working closely with our supply chain, our customers, our employees, making sure that we're very much joined up with what we're trying to achieve with it. I think, going back to the point around electric vehicles as well, we've got a dedicated electrics policy, which offers the customer a more of a wider proposition around electric vehicles and how we can try and educate our customers around that choice as well. So that's really, really important. I think looking at alternatives to the materials and products we use, whether it be recycled parts or how we replace things like single-use plastics and paper, and how we could be more digital, use things like DocuSign more rather than actually signing reams of paper. So I think it goes back to there's lots we can do in order to influence the outcome, and we're kind of just on that journey, I suppose, of what we're trying to achieve right now. But we need to keep pressing ahead because our competitors catch us up, our customers' demands are more, supply chain is catching up. So it's important that we keep that focus on what matters most, and that's to get to a net carbon zero future.
Absolutely, Chris. Great stuff. And Charlotte, I'll come to you first, if I may, just before we kind of round off with Joe ultimately. But an interesting question come through and kind of the cold face there, one about suppliers. Are you seeing a kind of reducing packaging in terms of parts that you receive and things like that? Is there a conscious effort that you're kind of aware of out there at the moment?
Honestly, I haven't seen much of a reduction, not anything like I'd like to. We're bailing around 2 1,100 litre bins of cardboard a week. So it's, I can't remember what weight they are, but obviously they're huge containers, 1,100 litres, about 4 foot wide, 4 foot tall. So, and they'll be solely for our baled cardboard alone, without the rest of the packaging that's coming in. Obviously, we can recycle the cardboard and the clean plastics, but I have, this is something that I often think about, how can we reduce the packaging down, because obviously we need to ensure that the quality is there, that the panels are coming in perfect condition, because we don't want to be disappointing the customers with a longer wait for their repair, and you don't want to be trying to repair something that's new. You're just losing time. It's not efficient for us. So I've not really personally seen much of a reduction in the way that we're receiving deliveries.
Joe, I'm sure you can have a conversation with Charlotte after this and try and sort something out. But just while we've got you there, Charlotte, in terms of, again, from your side, challenges, opportunities, kind of short term in sustainability, and a comments come through from Dean there in sustainability of the workforce, again, speaking to repairers, and it's kind of, the same aging demographic of the workforce. Apprentices now starting to kind of come through, but are all these things kind of weighing on your mind and part of the business culture strategy that you see ahead?
Our challenge with people really is to get enough of them on site at the moment. We have been trying to recruit for a good few months. So now we are going down the route of promoting people internally. We're taking 3 apprentices this year, which is the largest number that we've ever taken, but we're trying to obviously make sure that our workforce is ready. We've got an ageing population at the moment within our workshop, so we're investing in the apprentices and the workforce of tomorrow, and we're trying to look after the staff that we have got as well. With support with mental health has really become prevalent over the pandemic. People working from home, it's had knock-on effects with our non-technicians. That's sort of our challenge within the workforce at the moment is having enough people on deck for what we want to be able to keep our business turning over the volumes that we want to handle at the moment.
Yeah, a very familiar problem, I'm sure, that we've all probably spoken to repairers recently and heard very similar things. So, Joe, I'm going to skip across to you. There was a question that came through about the recycling element of electric vehicles. Is that something that you could kind of comment on or pick up on?
We're seeing a great number of total loss electric vehicles coming into the supply chain for parts. It's still small relatively to what we do currently, but we are seeing an increase, and we are receiving requests daily for from parts derived from electric vehicles. Unfortunately, the supply isn't there in order to hit the sorts of fulfillment that we would like. That will naturally increase over time as more and more electric vehicles are introduced to the roads. I mean, from our perspective, electric vehicles are relatively new in what we do. We're still learning very much about the appetite for all the components of an electric vehicle. We're spending a lot of time analysing the core components of each electric vehicle and the value and the worth. Currently, batteries for electric EV batteries, for instance, are really valuable valuable commodity from a parts perspective. They have a resale value because they're relatively new. I think the wider challenge for us as an industry comes in the next 5, 6, 7 years' time when those batteries are depleted and they need to be recycled back into their core materials. I think that's where we'll start to then understand exactly where we need to be as a business, as an industry, to manage those types of batteries and what we need to do with them next. But on the whole, in short, we are seeing an increase in requests for electric vehicle parts, but we're just not seeing the fulfillment, not naturally, because we're not seeing them through the supply chains at present.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Some more comments are coming through around shared responsibility or paying for the offset carbon emissions, as an example. That's again from Paul Tixon. Declining the use of courtesy vehicle, taking more sustainable options. Again, all these kind of things, I'm sure, Stuart, are very much on your kind of radar as an organisation, mobility solutions. And then we've also got the comment about benefit of exploring collaboration, again, using that term there, Stuart, aspect to drive out unwanted waste from the supply chains. All of these things are absolutely pertinent to, I'm sure, everyone's train of thought at the moment.
Yeah, I think the point there around carbon offsetting. I mean, we have carbon offsetting programs available to our leisure or retail customers, and you know, many people do take that option up. We have some business partners that also carry out that activity on behalf of their customers. I actually spoke to a client recently who was we were talking about something that we did as an initiative. In our 50th anniversary, we pledged to plant 50 million trees around the world over the next 50 years. And they asked if they could plant a tree for every time they hired a car. And we're starting to explore things like that. So I think customers from an end user and also a client customer perspective are starting to look at creative ways to do that. I think when it comes to courtesy cars, people still kind of need their cars. So a lot of people, even given the option to take something else, are kind of wed to their car. We are starting to use our roadside vehicles more. And when I say roadside, we call them car clubs, but they're automated access vehicles. So maybe not actually take a car into their driveway for the entirety of their claim, but actually make use of a car service that's available to them. And then in terms of the more sustainable vehicles, I mean, naturally our vehicle fleet is incredibly low from a tailpipe emissions perspective because of its age. We've got something like 15,000 vehicles that range from a mild hybrid right through to a full electric vehicle. So lots of very low emitting vehicles. Our conversations now with particularly insurers are around how do we start to encourage non-EV vehicle drivers to take an EV whilst their own vehicle is out of service, which isn't just as simple as offering it, because if you live in an environment where there's no plug near where you are or no ability to charge, that becomes very tricky. But starting to actually do some sort of triage to say, actually, you'd be a really good candidate to take an EV, try it out, and then that exposes them to those vehicles, because at the end of the day, we're all going to probably be an EV driver at some point in the not too distant future. So looking at ways that we can get more people exposed to those products when they have the unfortunate need often to end up in one of my cars, but that, from that perspective, to help with that. So I think there are tons of options in there for how we can handle that courtesy car replacement vehicle from a sustainability perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, I mean, more comments coming through, which is fantastic. Thoughts around solar power to run body shops, wind power, all of these things. From where you sit, Chris, I mean, without bombarding your inbox, but you're looking for solutions, I'm sure, from your supply partners as well as kind of you going to them. It's not just one-way traffic, is it?
No, absolutely. And that's going back to what we've all said about collaboration. It's trying to understand where some of the challenges are, how we can overcome the challenge, how we can work together. Go back to Stuart's point on trying to give ICE customers electric vehicle. We've been trialing this for a year now, actually, with some of our sole supply sites, because part of our Green Heart Standard, we do fund an electric vehicle courtesy car. And one of the initiatives around it was to try and encourage customers with petrol diesel cars into electric vehicle for a day. And that's been a real challenge. The take-up has been quite low on that, but it's something that we are trying to actively pursue if we can, because again, it will give a customer a good understanding of what an electric vehicle is, what it does, how it drives, and it might influence their outcome in the future. So it's an initiative that we are trying to push quite hard with some of our repairers.
Great stuff. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. I think we're sort of tying up the conversation a little bit now. Charlotte, from a repairer's perspective, the next 12, 18 months, kind of in terms of your sustainability and the focus and the actions that you are looking at taking, can you just give us a brief glimpse of what we can expect or see from yourselves?
So we received our PAS 2060 certification earlier on this month. So my challenge personally is I've got this commitment now to reducing our carbon, and I'm looking at ways to meet that need. So the other challenge to us at the moment, which we're focusing on during the next year, is going to be really working with our work providers to negotiate the right contracts to allow the investment that we want to put in towards our future here.
Brilliant. Thank you, Charlotte. Joe, I'm going to finish with you as well, because I'm going to allow you a little bit of a plug here, because I'm good like that. Hey, how can people get hold of you? What kind of conversations do you want? Is it all come as welcome? Is it certain people that you're looking to talk to?
We will, anybody can come to the table and speak to us, talk to us about their thoughts and feelings around Green Part Supply, work with us, trial us. I think, as I've already alluded to, it's about working together collaboratively, where we can supply you a repairer or the insurer with the goods that you require. Fantastic. If there's something at the back of that where we can see some benefit as well, reciprocal benefit to keep that supply chain moving along, fantastic. As a repairer, if you've got, just certain things we're doing with repairers currently that we're working with, we're taking away scrap metal, we're looking at recycling cardboard, all small things, but just thinking outside the box. We're in and out of these repair sites every day. If there's something that we can do a little bit differently to help aid in any way, then please give us a shout.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. And just going to switch screens for 1 second, and I still see comments are coming in. Let us know what you thought of the webinar. Any other thoughts that you've got? As I said, we're going to try and pick up any queries, any questions that we haven't managed to cover off, and we will. But please let the speakers know what you thought of today's session. Huge thank you, as always, from ARC360 to our corporate partners: BASF, BMS, CAPS, Copart, Emax, Integral, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Innovation Group, Merca, Nationwide Vehicle Recovery Assistance, S&G Response, and Sherwin-Williams, as well as our partners Aztec, the Green Part Specialists in DARSA and Prasco UK. It's been fantastic having you all join us today. So a huge thank you to you, Charlotte, for making your debut on the webinars. You will be back. So thank you so much, and fantastic work you're doing down there at Coachwork Renovations. Keep up the good work. Really good to hear. Chris, thank you so much for your time. Busy time for everybody right now, but really appreciate that. Stuart, likewise, great to see you in the office rather than talk to you at home, and I mean that in the nicest way, but good to have you on once again, Stu. Thanks, really appreciate it. And likewise, Joe, I'm really sad I missed Ian pop his head round the corner there, but never mind. It's been caught on camera. So thank you all very much for joining us. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you all soon. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.